That scene, that same scene, tells me that school grades are forever, and this guy's an absolute psychopath.
You should know that the president's scientific advisors are suggesting that a nuclear blast could change this asteroid's trajectory.
I know the president's chief scientific advisor. We're at MIT together. And in a situation like this, you really don't want to take the advice from a man who got a C- in astrophysics.
So what's wrong with that?
Okay, so so this guy, the scientist, he's like the presidential advisor, got a C- in astrophysics at MIT. First of all, MIT, number 1, number 2, number 3, somewhere up there, bouncing up there in these STEM fields. So you're like so highly achieving dude, and it was 20 years ago. He's the presidential advisor now. He's had a full long career, has been successful so many stages along the way, and then this guy comes in. He's like, yeah, but I memorized his grade from 20 years ago. He's an idiot. He's an idiot forever.
That's right. So
what psychopath memorizes the grades of everyone? Because you don't know who's going to be the presidential advisor. You got to memorize the grades of every person around you, and then when they like rise to the top of their field, you're like, I'm gonna take you down. I'm gonna take you down. I remember your grade for years. It's so crazy.
That's right. So he took note of all his potential competitors back in undergrad and grad school, and like snuck a look at their grades so he could undercut them when they at any future time. So
and it was effective.
And if he was applying for funding, he's probably thinking, if I'm applying for funding, I can say that he got bad grades, so give it to me.
I see it.
But now the stakes are highest as it could possibly be, and he's still using these underhanded tactics.
And it worked. And gosh, the standard required, what he's saying is that you need to learn everything on the first try. Like this guy took astrophysics for the first time, and you need to get a 93%. You need to get better. You get a 94%. You need to have that A or better on the first pass. There's no room. There's no room for like, I didn't get it the first time, but I took the class the second time. I got an A plus. Or there's no room for like, I was double majoring at that same time, so I was really had my focus on the other thing. I was much more of a literature guy. That's why astrophysics took a back seat. Like no. You need to learn everything to the A standard, the first pass. And you need to do it when you're in your like early 20s and your teens. Like you need to understand these high level concepts, which are like at the forefront of all of humanity at some point. Like you need to know it, or I'm going to memorize it. You're going to memorize it forever. Take you down.
And that is not how learning works.
That's right.
Because you have to see something that's difficult multiple times and practice. 4, 5, 6 times seeing this thing to be like, I really understand it. Even somebody who got an A or an A plus in a class may not truly understand it. They're just
good at taking tests. Yeah.
I mean, okay, they understand it to a high degree if they get an A, I think, on some level. But that doesn't mean that depth of understanding is there. In fact, somebody who gets a C but keeps going, keeps learning, may get a deeper understanding than the person that got an A who stopped.
That's right. It's about grit, about commitment, doing the grind until you learn stuff.
But this guy is like, I find flaws in all my competitors, and when the time is right,
their grades.
I spring it in a meeting.
This guy's a psychopath.
He's
Public
a
service
savage.
announcement for anyone that's in undergrad right now: memorize all your classmates' grades. I think now they do this anonymized. It's anonymous. Like they just have serial codes for everyone. That way people like this don't do that. So third PSA is break that code. Break the code, learn everyone's grades, and then hold it against them deep in the future.
I mean, you could do some social engineering too, where you can just ask them for their grades and share it. We're all friends, but really,
you're decoding the system.
You're figuring it out. If they get a bad grade on a test, they're not going to get funding.
You're never going to be a presidential advisor. It's toast. You're 19 years old. You're never going to have that future.
Never going to have a future.
Wild. Psychopath.